Welcome to Real Talks, a space for awakened mothers remembering who they really are. Hi, I'm Ariel, sharing my knowledge for conscious mothers navigating identity, intuition, and the awakening. I want to start this first episode with a breath. If you're listening right now, you're probably in the thick of motherhood or you're healing from the version of yourself you had become to survive it. So just exhale. You are safe. You are seen. You're not doing this alone. I decided to create this podcast because I feel like there are mothers walking through one of the most powerful spiritual portals in existence, but no one really prepares us for what actually happens to our identity. We talk about birth plans and feeding schedules, which I love to talk about. But what we don't talk about is the internal metamorphosis, the ego death, the awakening, the frequency shifts mirroring your children. The part of you that looks at yourself now and thinks, who am I now? We've lost maybe a decade of our life. Who are we when we move from the maiden to the matriarch? Matriessence is the spiritual, emotional, physical, hormonal, energetic transition a woman goes through when she becomes a mother. It's puberty, childbirth, and spiritual awakening all at once. And it's not talked about, and it's not supported, unless you have a group of women close to you who have gone through it and are aware and have enough energy to help you through it and share the information. But if you don't have that community, which most of us don't, and that's part of this initiation, we're missing so much information. It's like you can read all the books, you can Google all the things, you can try to plan for every scenario, but what is not talked about is the complete internal cellular change that we go through, where we become a completely new person. And through this process, so many women think that they're broken. There is a huge depression and sadness that comes with the death of the person that we were before we became a mother. And this process is truly an awakening. It is a spiritual portal, an initiation process that we go through. And it's painful. It's very lonely. I am a person who was told that I could be anything I wanted to be in this world. I just needed to build it, which I did. When I was 23, I built my first company. And I spent my 20s building a career and an identity that I felt was right for this world. I felt accepted. I felt like I was contributing. I felt seen and recognized and successful. And I did have a successful company. I had my first child when I was 29, and I already was in recovery. And so in my 20s, I was building a business that was successful, and I was also sober. And I got married when I was 28 and immediately got pregnant with my first child. And this first pregnancy rocked my world, because the frequency of the soul that was entering my body was much different than the frequency I was existing in. And so my body started changing to match this frequency, to hold this soul, who is now a beautiful, almost 10-year-old daughter of mine. And so I started the transformation at that time, unknowingly. While I was sitting for the CPA exams, my body was shifting at a cellular level. And I planned for everything. I thought I had it all organized. I would have my business. My employees would help me run the business. I would have nannies in my home. And I would continue to work while other people were helping me raise my child and run my business. And I thought that I was capable of holding all of that. But what happened when my first was born is an unexpected like urgent C-section that led to trouble with nursing. And while I had a lot of sort of support around me, I really had no idea what I was doing and how much my life was about to change. I actually continued to work through my first daughter, got pregnant when she was only 7 months old and miscarried, and then 2 months later got pregnant again. And at this stage in my life, I was carrying so much of the business and the energetics and also so much unhealed trauma from my life up until that point that I started to crumble. During this second pregnancy, my body started to break down. I was put on bed rest at 30 weeks because my body was like not holding the pregnancy. And this really started to alter my view on my life. I was very unhappy. I was in a ton of pain. The emotional and energetic weight that I was holding for my business, my clients, my staff, my child that was embodied, my husband, my friends, it became painful on a cellular level. This was the beginning of an adrenal crash, mental breakdown that happened over the next couple of years. I am smart though, and so I tried to put things in place to manage the things that I couldn't manage, to hold the stuff that I couldn't hold. And my second daughter was born, and I continued to push forward. I was trying to expand my business and do all these things. And meanwhile, I was crashing. And I actually relapsed when my child was about 6 months old. And so this began another whole chapter of relapse in my recovery journey and a full-on internal collapse. I remember, fast forward about a year, I remember laying on the floor in my home office. I couldn't even get up and go into my office. I was so sick and so tired. I was so exhausted. It was so painful. And I remember thinking, like, what am I doing? What am I showing my children? Like, what is this life? This life is, I had all the things. I had the business. I had the house. It looked like I had all the things that I was told to have, to be happy and to be like an accepted person in this world. And I was so deeply unhappy. I was so deep, it's just in so much pain. And it wasn't even then that I decided to get clean. It was actually over the next 12 months, a series of events and doctors that helped me get myself back together. I did end up losing my business during this time and my whole life. Everything crumbled right in front of me. And I remember sitting on my bed through this process, trying to meditate, because yoga and meditation had sort of always been a part of my life, but I didn't necessarily believe in, I sort of believed in a higher power, but I didn't really understand it. I wasn't firm in that belief system. I was not raised with any religious or spiritual beliefs. But I remember sitting on my bed, like reaching out, asking for help. Like, I have 2 daughters. I can't be crumbling right now. And I heard a voice, and it told me to get clean and to focus on healing myself and that life would get better. So I did that. I reached out to my mom, and I ended up moving my family to Hawaii, and my mom lives on an off-grid farm in Hawaii, a chocolate farm. And I crawled here. When I tell you I barely made it, I literally crawled here, and my husband slowly crawled here after. We were both sort of in this awful state together. We got clean, and it was a rough time. We were so poor, and COVID hit right at this time. This was like the winter of 2020. And we got pregnant again. We freaking got pregnant again. And so I did my best to rest, listen to my inner guidance, work on healing my body, work on a whole different mindset. I was having a profound spiritual awakening at this point where I was realizing I was psychic and I didn't understand what that meant. Because my frequency was changing through each child, through holding each child in my body. Each one of them brought a frequency that turned on my DNA in a way that pulled me through this most insane spiritual transformation within myself, and my intuition turned on. And I was able to access knowledge that I didn't have before. And I used this and my spirit team to heal myself. Oh my God, you guys, I'm in the middle of this story. My 3-year-old comes up here and tells me, there's a bird in the house. And there was actually a bird in the house. The cat brought it in. And we saved it. And it flew away. And I don't remember what I was talking about. This is the life of a mother. So going back to the pregnancy of my 3rd child, this was during COVID, and the world was calm, and we were living on a farm in Hawaii. And this was a really big opportunity for me to heal. And I did heal quite a bit. I had a home birth that was shockingly beautiful and spiritual. And while I was still struggling with depression, postpartum depression, anxiety, some bipolar issues, like my brain chemistry was messed up, my body chemistry was messed up. I was healing, but the process kind of was going zigzagged. Fast forward a little bit, and my husband's working on getting a vasectomy, and we get pregnant again with our 4th daughter. She was conceived under an eclipsed moon, and we were freaking shocked. I thought, there's no way I can handle this. Like, my whole body hurt all the time. I don't know how to describe this feeling of cellular pain, but I was in so much discomfort and heavy density in my body. I just didn't even understand where I was anymore. I was so far from the girl who started this business and got clean when she was 23, thinking I was going to have this big accounting firm and help small businesses with their taxes and, get all this recognition for helping people and doing the things that were hard that they didn't want to do. And fast forward, I found myself sitting with 4 daughters that my body barely made it through carrying. I'm sober again, but I'm disassociated, and I'm struggling to find meaning and happiness in life. Postpartum for me, for all 4 children, was so hard, so painful, so depressing, so lonely. Even with like a husband who's very active and helpful, and living near my mom, and having people in my life that were supporting me, it still wasn't. I was still so broken through this whole process. I honestly feel like I lost 10 years of my life, of my conscious life. I was just floating through an abyss of babies and nursing and preparing food and wiping tears and trying to create a joyous life for my 4 daughters while I was struggling through so much pain, and the world was going through so much pain and trauma. During this time, I tried to start my own school for them. The government came in and shut me down. It was just like everything that I tried to do was shut down. And now, in retrospect, the reason for that was because my nervous system couldn't hold it. What I didn't realize was happening through this whole process that I now understand is my nervous system was so traumatized. I was stuck in freeze state or flight. And I needed to do a whole bunch of healing to my physical body, to my fascia, nervous system, and cells in order to regenerate into this new person I was becoming. It was like a literal transformation. Similar to when a caterpillar becomes a butterfly, they go through a whole DNA transformation. Like if you look at the DNA of a caterpillar and then you look at the DNA, what this process felt like for me. It was long, it was painful, and I came out of it as a completely different person. And so as I did this healing, my nervous system started to change. My intuition sharpened. My priorities rearranged themselves. My old identity did not fit at all. It's like every time, and I still do some like bookkeeping, accounting, tax, CFO work, and every time I do it, and I'm so good at it, which is so annoying to me. It just doesn't feel in alignment anymore. It's not who I am. And if you've reached this stage where your old identity doesn't fit anymore, and you're not really sure who you are now in your 30s, nothing is wrong with you. You're not failing. This is a transition, and it's a big transition that is not often talked about. It's very similar to puberty. When you're a child and then you move into becoming a teenager and young adult, you are a completely different being, even chemically, because hormones come into play. And we go through a similar transition to that when we become a mother. And through this process, while there's different perspectives we can choose. We can choose to think like, oh, this is all I am now. Everybody's everything, right? Nothing of myself. Or we can choose to look at it differently. We can choose to look at it as a shedding of what was not truly in alignment with our lives, and a transition into what is in alignment. I have to work really hard to find things and bring things into my life that actually bring me joy. And that's okay. I spend so much time caring for my children and my family, but I have to make sure I'm doing self-care and things that I love. And so I squeeze it in wherever I can. I went to Costco the other day. Where I live, Costco is really kind of far away. It's like a 2-hour drive. So I decided to take only my oldest with me, which was challenging because the other kids were upset. But I did that so that we could go snorkeling, because I freaking love to snorkel. And if I can turn my 5-hour Costco journey into like a little sliver of joy for me, it transforms my whole week. It transforms my whole life. And I would have never paused to snorkel as the accountant version of me. I was moving too fast, carrying too much for other people. And I was in this go, 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 people please, hustle culture that wouldn't allow me to pause and do things that I love and enjoy. Becoming a mother opens up, like blasts open your psychic channels. It completely rewires your frequency. It forces you into presence. It exposes every fucking unhealed place inside of you through your children, through the mirroring back that happens with your children. And it shows you the parts of you that are ready to evolve. So wherever you are in your motherhood journey, the breakdown, the rebirth, the confusion, the awakening, you're not behind. You're just in a transition. Anyways, that's it for today. Thank you for doing the unseen work that is going to shift our world.